We're sitting around on the dangerous divan and not allowing it to get at us. And we're having a couple drinks, and we're going to have some discussion tonight about, among other things, how to get into tabletop not allowing it to get at us. There's lots of questions out there. We're constantly out on discussion boards and Facebook groups, learning about what people find interesting or not very interesting about games. And I think this is going to be an interesting episode tonight. So just warning, it's an adult show. We drink. We occasionally use profane language. We try not to string too many of them together if we can help it. I'm just going to go. What was that?
I was just going to say that's the rule. As long as there's not too many.
Is that the rule? Okay.
It's only episode 3. I don't know if it's
actually followed the rule.
Sure. Whatever.
It's more of a theory. But anyway, I'm Danny Grimes. I've been running pro games at Gen Con for a long time. I'm a terrain maker and model builder maker in general. We're also joined again tonight, Matt, owner of Cobalt Con and Blackwood Society. We have organized play platform that gets rolled out at conventions all across the Midwest. And hey, what is everybody drinking tonight? I should add, before we get too much further, I am drinking whiskey and pineapple juice. I'm feeling a little, it's cold in Wisconsin.
What is that even called?
It's called whiskey and pineapple juice, and there's a little squirt in there too.
I bet there is.
Maybe.
Yeah, I consider it a medicine. It's a sacrament. So Matt, owner of Cobalt Con and Blackwood Society, what are you drinking?
I'm diving into the abyss this evening.
Ooh.
Got a 2017 reserve from Deschutes Brewery. It's a stout, as you probably guessed. But
yes.
With
motor oil.
Smelling delicious.
You are a lover of motor oil. Next up, Brian Berg is an author, game designer, and director of operations for Total Party Kill.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, really.
So what are you drinking, Brian?
I am drinking Exile Ruthie by Exile Brewing in Des Moines, Iowa. It is delicious, possibly the best gold lager I've ever had. And later in the show, I'll be drinking Rogue Dead Guy, aka my call sign. I'd like to point out that Alex right now is like, did I really sign up for this? Is this the show that I signed up to be on?
Is this the thing that he'll look back on and be like, it all went downhill from
This was a low moment in my career.
Yeah, I can't believe they talked me into it. Well, anyway, before we get to Alex, Jimmy.
Before he disconnects.
We got to ask questions quick before he leaves. Our IT mastermind and video producer, and also the GM on Praetor's Rejects Twitch channel, Jimmy Duffy. What are you drinking?
Shiner.
Of course.
Like you do.
Okay.
Yes.
The variety that he likes.
And I apologize for the train wreck intro. Something went haywire with Zoom. I don't know. I fixed it, and as soon as I was cut over to it, bubbleheads again. So I'll figure it out.
Yeah, we will figure it out. And I realized to my chagrin that when I chose whiskey and then everybody else chose beer, that at some point I would have to dilute the whiskey somehow because that's a completely ridiculous ratio.
Do you?
Yeah,
that was the chagrin?
Do you really know?
And
then we're also joined tonight by Alex Kammer, and he is a writer and a producer of games. He's the director at Gamehole Con. He's at least somewhat responsible for bringing True Dungeon, which is like one of my favorite things to play at conventions. He's somewhat responsible for that too. What are you drinking? Are you drinking, Alex?
I am. I ran down and grabbed what I first saw, which was a little Modelo, which is something smooth for a Monday night.
Mm-hmm.
Not a big Monday night drinker usually, but whatever.
Modelo Mondays.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm delighted.
No. Awesome. So I guess we'll just kind of kick it right off. This industry and tabletop games in general have just exploded. A lot of people know that. That's like in mainstream media all over the place. But I think there's still a lot of mystery involved when people do get interested, despite the prevalence of YouTube videos and all these other ways of learning about it. I'm still shocked when people say, how do I do that? I'm like, have you watched any videos? No. So it doesn't always occur to people to do what I might do, which is watch a video or something like that. And I'm wondering what people's input is on how do you get started? How did we all get started? And how do you get into the world of tabletop role-playing games? And I guess I would, I think as well, I'd like to talk a little bit about I guess I'll start with Alex. What was it? When did it happen? When did the bug get you?
Yeah, I'm an old bastard. So this is the concept of the internet, and watching a video to learn how to do anything have been a science fiction for the 12-year-old me. I learned like everyone else that I had a buddy who bought the basic set. And we sat around and over the lunch hour in the cafeteria in 7th grade and played. And he took me through Keep on the Borderland, and he kind of half-assed ran it for me. And then that summer, I saw this. I'm from Wisconsin. I'm from central Wisconsin, so that's really close to the birthplace of Dungeons and Dragons. So it's pretty, it was kind of a thing that was going on here, where I certainly understand that it was not the same phenomena around the country. But so in a local department store in Portage, Wisconsin, just a nothing little town here in central Wisconsin, there was a 4-panel display of the 4 hardbounds, AD&D hardbounds, and it fucking blew my mind, man. So I was like, I gotta mow a lot of lawns, and I've got to buy all these books. And I mowed lawns all summer, and I got these books which were quite frankly inscrutable to me. But I was hooked at that point. And so, my entry is pretty classic that way. I think most of us here would say, well, I had a friend, or my older brother, or something like that.
Creepy uncle, something.
Yeah, exactly. Some guy in a van.
That cool uncle, Tim.
Yeah, so that's how I got into it.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Uncle Greenwood.
The thing that interests me about that story is when you got those books, when you got that initial like, wow, the light bulb went off. What was it? Because you were like thinking about the stories and like the things that you could do, and then it was adjusting the rules to figure out how to make it work, or were you like, wow, we get to fight things and cut them up with swords and keep track of hit points?
No, it was so my entry into tabletop role-playing games was the same time as epic fantasy. So I was reading fantasy, and then there's this fantasy game. Like, holy shit, I can actually interact and participate in these worlds somehow if I could just make these Byzantine rules make sense. So yeah, that's how it was, more from the story side. I just love the books I was reading, and I just wanted to be in them. And so that's what got me.
Alex, what were you reading back then?
Yeah, well, I started with Piers Anthony was one of the first things I read. There were a lot of pulps too, John Carter Mars and all that kind of stuff. But Edgar Rice Burroughs, I'm trying to think of some of the other.
Fritz Lieber, Fafhrd, The Great Monster.
Yep. The Chronicles of Amber were huge for me. The Complete Book of Swords, the Sovereign.
Oh my God, Saberhagen, yeah.
Yeah. The Complete Book of Swords. I love those. The stories of those.
Till the last one.
Yeah. Yes. Right. But those they were so sword focused, and they had these tremendously powerful weapons, and how and they build stories around them. I thought it was great. So that just lit my imagination on fire when it came to that. So I was screwing around with the original Traveler set, and the original D&D set. That's how I got into it. And we never really played either until I got almost to college. But I still considered myself a D&D player. I didn't really play well. I didn't play anything that looks like what we do today. But
right. I remember Robert Lynn Aspirin was a big guy for me.
Yeah, there you go.
Tales from the Vulgar Unicorn, because the art on the cover looked like the art in D&D. Like it was similar, and that visual aspect really hooked me. I think it's funny you said about the department store. I bought my first D&D stuff in an Ace Hardware.
There you go.
In the glass case that they had to unlock to get at everything inside. So,
well, your point is well taken. That about art, though, I think those are invariably and inevitably intertwined. The concept of art, that's what, when I was a kid of 15 years old, I was choosing novels based on the cover art.
Oh, me too.
I was, it was does that look kick-ass? I'm going to buy that. And sometimes
all the stuff Alan Dean Foster did. Whoever Alan Dean Foster had as a cover artist, it was just, you were like, wow, I totally want to read to the point in the book where that happened.
Yeah.
I was buying Blue Oyster Cult albums because they had the same artist as
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, nice. So,
Paths
So-
of the Perambulator, like Alan Dean Foster had Paths of the Perambulator series. Like I never would have ever picked that up, but for the art
Right.
and the whole it's pretty much like a story about furries. Nothing
Yeah.
I would
and
read
how, and,
otherwise.
those first books, I think you just touching on the art thing again, because as an artist myself, like this is really near and dear to me. The lack of art in those first books made you so preciously appreciate each little black and white illustration, because it wasn't like today. I mean, it's a tome, it's dense, tiny fonts, and you get to Emrakal, firing his blast at the street, and you just cherish that. Now these books we have are just they're like coffee table books that just happen to have rules in them. It's just amazing. So
and are way more expensive to produce.
yes, yeah, for sure. So I
got that. So I got the collector's set. I haven't opened it. Of course, I'm speaking, preaching to the choir when talking to Alex about not opening stuff. But I got
An attack already.
I got the.
Not an attack.
fifth edition
Yeah, we will-
collector's set.
we will-
I didn't even freaking open it.
Yeah, I didn't mention it earlier, but Alex has a incredible collection, and I don't know much about it actually, so maybe we'll talk about it later if Alex
He'll
wants to.
educate you.
You will in November.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
So I guess when we talk about, I kind of want to stick to the format that we had laid out, which is maybe to talk a little bit to you, Alex, about one more thing here before we kind of all go back into that topic we were just discussing, because I think we all have a lot of.
Are you
things to
saying
talk
we
about.
got off the train, left the track somewhere? Is that what you're?
No, not really. But I want. I guess what I'm trying to segue is there's different ways to get into gaming. You can meet friends, meet online. You can meet at a convention. These are publicized events, right? So, did that love you had early on, like what is the thread that carried through, maybe just with some points along it, to starting a convention?
Wow. Yeah, there's a
game-
lot of dots in between there, my man.
I bet there are, but maybe just the
Shots
milestone.
fired.
Yeah.
How do you go from just wanting to play to wanting to really create like a magnet for people? You're creating basically a port of call for people who want to start and they want to just show up and remain kind of
Port of
anonymous.
call.
Yeah, that's nice. So it was the formation of the game hole is axiomatic and critical to that process, because what it was the the bunch of knuckleheads like us who were talking one night and realized, hey, I did that too. This is the same background story we just were sharing about how we got into D&D. Oh, you play D&D too? Wouldn't it be fun to start playing D&D again? And this was 20 years ago, and D&D was not the hot topic and the sought after event that it is now. I mean, there was sort of people reluctantly admitted that they played D&D back, as kids.
Reluctantly.
Yeah. Well, no, somewhat. I mean, it was a sub rosa thing still to some extent. It wasn't for me. I've been painful.
We were like ISIS cells.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so we started playing, and we had so much fun. We had so much fun playing together, and we started going to conventions and the together. And the big one, of course, was Gen Con. In Milwaukee.
Mhm.
I went to Gen Con. First one is 1989, and went not every year, but a lot of years throughout the time until they departed to Indianapolis. So after they left to go to Indianapolis, we followed and we'd go to Indianapolis for Gen Con. It was fine. Just a very different city, very different vibe, very different show entirely. But we're thinking, geez, here we are. We have a pretty smart group of people, capable people, excluding myself, but the rest of the guys are quite bright. And we probably could run just about any company there is together. I mean, we have literally like 3 IT people, an accountant, and a physician, another attorney, and it's ridiculous. A couple engineers, it's just nerds, man. It'd be fun to take a shot at running a convention and see if it would work, especially here in Madison, which is such a gaming town, Madison, Wisconsin,
Yeah.
which has led the nation in per capita game stores in forever, with the university and with the great game stores and so on. And so we said, fuck it, let's give it a shot. And the initial pushback was from local game stores saying, are you really going to call it Game Hole Con? And then I said, all right, now now
Doubling down.
now it's on. Now I'm gonna make it one of the biggest, best shows in the country. I was kind of fucking around before, but now it's serious because you have challenged me. You don't think I can make Gamehole Con a household name? Here we go. And so that's this present windmill tilt I'm on, is to do that. So that's how.
I remember that email, Alex, and I was like,
yeah, that's right.
Gamehole Con?
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah, it's a great show, and I think I shared this with you when we were talking last week before the show. I attended those first years at Parkside when Gen Con was at UW Parkside down in Kenosha, and Gamehole Con has that same vibe. It was big back then, but it was big like kind of fill up a university type size, not take over the whole downtown of a major city. And I think I just love going to your show. And it is such there's a lot of good camaraderie. Everybody's super chill. It's really nice. It reminds me of a classic con.
Well, what I liked about, so all kidding aside, with a name like Gamehole Con, because that's what we're called, the Gamehole. That's our game group. So if it wasn't going to be that, there wasn't going to be a show. But one thing that I thought would be effective about signaling to everyone is that obviously it's not a commercial endeavor, right? There's nothing corporate about it when you call yourself Gamehole Con. Clearly not, right? And then I think that carries through. I think everyone comes forward and say, well, what the fuck is this going to be? This is what kind of insanity am I signing up for? And it is. It's just it's a carnival. We just want to have fun. We're just trying to have high energy, fun, lighthearted, cool show, and not trying to make any money on anything, not trying to sell anyone anything. Just do whatever kind of gaming you want to do here. So and I guess it's working because the thing keeps growing, and it's crazy.
It shows, Alex. It really does. You can tell that your convention is run off of passion and not purely for profit.
Yeah, not even remotely for profit.
and to me, I mean, that means the world of difference, because I go to Gen Con, and it's Gen Con. It's fun. It's an experience.
Yeah.
I go to Gamehole Con because I want to enjoy the hobby. I want to go. I want to play games. I want to have fun. I want to do all the things. And I want to be able to walk and not run into someone. There's a lot of huge benefits to Gamehole Con. And per capita, you have more guests per attendee than any other gaming convention I've ever been to.
That is true. And your fucking food trucks are on point.
Yes. Yes.
For the gluten intolerant in the world, you have options. You win for sure.
Thanks, man. Yeah. Well, hey, I got to sit there for 4 days myself, so that's quite selfish, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Food options. So
what's good for you is good for everybody else. I'll buy that.
That's right.
Plus, you get to sit there and watch people like Matt Mercer get stuck in front of your booth for an hour while fans are trying to talk to him, and that was awesome.
That was quite.
And what I mean by that particular story was very funny, because he could not get away. Like, he'd go this way and everybody would migrate with him, and he'd go that way and they would migrate. But so I kind of felt bad for him. It was just happened that he was right in front of the TPK booth for 45 minutes. But the point is, I mean, they're accessible, which was awesome. The special guests are accessible, and I think that was really killer this last year in particular.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to, and the problem is though, and Matt, you certainly can, I think, relate. If you run a show that people like, everyone wants to come back, which is great for attendees, but that includes guests, and we want to have new guests, and so this list keeps getting longer and longer. I'm like, holy shit, man! You know what? There's got to be some point where we have to actually, I'm sorry, we can't. You got to take a year off, or whatever. But yeah.
Or I'm seeing the cartoon already, where like at every table there's a guest. Like every group gets a famous person to hang out with for the weekend.
Did you guys notice Alex didn't say that we actually say no?
Yeah.
It's good to not say no. That's fine.